Pleased to be joined by NFL Network's draft guru, Daniel Jeremiah. You can follow him on Twitter at Move the Sticks. Daniel, thanks so much for taking some time to join us.
I appreciate it. I think I like your fake flower as much as I like my fake flower back here. Very nicely done.
Daniel, jumping right in your latest mock draft, you have the Broncos taking Javon Kinlaw there at number 15. What do you like about the fit there?
Well, he's a great player if he were to somehow get down there. Getting some youth along that defensive front, somebody with big-time upside as a pass rusher to plug into the group there. Well, you know what you have coming off the edge. I just think he'd be a great complement to what they have. And I think he's somebody that is excited as you are about watching him at South Carolina. I think his best football is ahead of him. And we started to see that a little bit at the Senior Bowl with what this kid can do. So, I don't think when it's all said and done, he's going to end up getting that far. But if he did, I know there's other needs for the team, but that'd be tough to pass on a kid like that.
One of those other needs you mentioned could be wide receiver. Such a deep class this year, but who's at the top of your board?
Yeah, for me, it's CeeDee Lamb. I think it's a flavor discussion. It's just kind of what you're looking for. But to me, he's the prototypical number one wide receiver who can play outside. He's somebody that can win down in the red zone, and he's the best of the group after the catch. He's so competitive and so tough after the catch. So that's what I love about him. But I mean, look, Jerry Jeudy's the best route runner. Ruggs has that otherworldly speed that he brings to the table. And I think Justin Jefferson's as polished as we have, who's somebody that's going to just plug into the slot day one and be ready to go. So there's four good options. They're going to have at least one or two of those guys there, I believe, when they're on the clock. And if they do want to go wide receiver, Cortland Sutton's going to have a nice running mate.
You mentioned the top four guys there, but what kind of size is that gap after Jefferson?
Well, I think Jefferson is closer to 3 than to 5. I have Brandon Ayuk in the early to mid-20s. But he's Brandon Ayuk's a really good football player, but I think there's still a little bit of a gap there between him and Jefferson. But there's so many of these guys. I mean, if you wanted to wait, you're going to have guys in the second, third round that can come in and help your football team. It's just that big four, to me, they separate themselves a little bit from the rest.
When we get to next Thursday and it all plays out, do you think the Broncos will have to trade up if they want Lamb, Ruggs, or Jeudy?
Well, it'll be interesting. I think we'll know after pick 11. If the Jets take a tackle and not a receiver, if I'm the Broncos, I'm feeling comfortable about the fact that we got a chance to get one of those guys. If the Jets go a receiver, all bets are off, because now you could be looking at Jets, Raiders, Niners, all going wide receivers. And I know what they have in Tampa, and everybody will laugh and say there's no way in a million years. I would not be surprised if Justin Jefferson is a player that would fit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beautifully. When you could put Godwin on one side, Mike Evans on the other, and you give Tom Brady what he's always had, which is a premier slot receiver, that would be fun to watch.
Yeah, you mentioned the Jets maybe taking a tackle there at 11. Which of those top 4 offensive tackles do you think could maybe be there at 15?
To me, it's teams are all over the map. And in other years, I'd be able to tell you and say, well, look, I think Andrew Thomas is the 4th tackle. But I've talked to a team that has Andrew Thomas as the 2nd tackle. You talk to teams that have Andrew Thomas as the 3rd tackle. You talk to teams that have Andrew Thomas as the 7th tackle. So everybody's all over the board this year. So in terms of most likely to be there, I don't think Wills will be there. I don't think Becton will be there. I think, Wirfs maybe. It'd be between one of those two. I would guess Wirfs would probably be that guy. But I think when it's all said and done, with so many teams having a need there, I don't know that one of those 4 guys gets there.
The Broncos have several needs, so we'll ask you about several positions here. Already went wide receiver, O-line. What kind of value do you think they could get at 15, though, for a cornerback?
Well, I think there's 2 guys that are kind of in that range. Obviously, Okudah is going to be gone. So for me, you look at – I'll even give you 3 guys, but I think – C.J. Henderson, who's got a lot of buzz building on him right now. I think he's got a chance to go even, number 9 to Jacksonville. But there's a chance he'll be there. He'll be the highest rated corner. If he's not there, now you're talking about A.J. Terrell and Jaylen Johnson, which might be a little bit early for them. But I think they're both starter caliber corners with toughness and size and just really competitive kids. So those would be the 3 I would think you'd keep your eye on. But Henderson would be the one you'd be excited about if he was there.
You mentioned the buzz around Henderson. Is there a guy right now that you really like that's not really being talked about as much as you think he should be?
Well, I don't hear anybody talk about Jaylen Johnson. And I think he's a really good football player at Utah. He wasn't challenged very much this year. They just avoided him. They wouldn't go at him. And he had a bunch of production the year before, but he's fluid. He's physical. He can find him when he gets the opportunity. To me, I think he's a first-round player all day long that just doesn't get discussed very much. But that's kind of that first-round group there. AJ Terrell, it seems like there's some buzz starting to build for him a little bit because of all the size that he brings to the table. He got torched by LSU in the championship game. But I think people are realizing that kid, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, there's not as much shame in that.
Daniel, do you ever go back and check out some of your evaluations from like last season's draft? And just wondering how those matched up with some of the Broncos rookies last year, guys like Drew Lock or Noah Fant.
Yeah, I like both those players last year. And I always try and do that, a couple years removed. I'll go back and look at that, and then I can try and, see if you can take away some lessons. What do you learn about guys you got right, guys you got wrong? But Drew Lock last year was my he was my third quarterback. So I had him ahead of Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones obviously went with the 6th pick. So I was bullish on Drew. I thought that was a great fit for him there, great value for where they got him. And then Noah Fant, look, the athleticism was there, and I think you saw that the moments during the season as it went along, you started to see, okay, this guy's got some real playmaking ability. I want to say it was a Cleveland game. Is that the one where he had the real long touchdown?
Yeah, he broke a couple of tackles and then took off down the sideline there.
Yeah, I remember watching that tape and be like, okay, that's the guy I thought they were getting right there at Iowa, and he's just going to get better.
If Drew Lock was in this year's draft, where would you have him ranked among some of the quarterbacks?
He would be my third guy. He would have been, behind for me, Joe Burrow and Tua would have been in that conversation with Herbert. But I would have probably had him over Herbert. I gave him the exact same grade. But I think Lock's a little bit more of a playmaker. Herbert's a little bit more conservative. So you can kind of split those hairs either way.
Daniel, you said Friday there might not be as much groupthink among these teams just because they're not all at these pro days. Who could be maybe the biggest shock either in terms of moving up the board or falling down in the first round?
Well, I think moving up, Isaiah Wilson, that's got a lot of buzz from Georgia, their right tackle. There's a lot of teams that are really high on him. So I'd keep an eye on that one. In terms of dropping down the board, sliding down the board, it's tough. It's tough to say. I mean, Tua is the ultimate wild card. Is he going to be somebody that goes 5 or 6? Or are people really concerned about the medical and he drops? I think Jordan Love is another one. So, the quarterbacks tend to be the more volatile players. And after we get past the first, 12 to 15 guys, there's really not a whole lot of difference between, the 18th player and the 60th player. So that's been that way the last few years. So you're not really surprised if any of those guys kind of sneak up in there.
Lots of different ways things could play out next Thursday. Daniel, what should fans kind of be looking for as the draft broadcast unfolds next week from a technical standpoint and how you'll be involved?
Well, it's going to be fun. We're going to be together with ESPN, and a bunch of those guys are buddies. I've known Mel Kiper for 20 years. I've known Chris Mortensen for over 20 years. Booger's a good buddy. Todd McShay is great. So you're going to have on our side, NFL Network side, you'll have Rich Eisen's going to be hosting the fundraiser aspect of this. Which is going to be digitally as well as on social platforms. And then we're going to have Kurt Warner and Michael Irvin and myself from NFL Network joining Trey Wingo and the ESPN crew. I work with Louis Riddick with the Philadelphia Eagles, so we've known each other for a long time. So there's a lot of mouths to feed, but I think we've got a really kind of an all-star group of people that know these kids real well, and we're going to have some fun conversations about them as we go through the draft. It's going to be different. Hopefully the technology holds up for us. But, I'm just glad it's going to go off, and we're going to get a chance to get this thing underway Thursday night.
Ever think you'd be using Zoom like this for everything?
It's crazy. Yeah. Having meetings like this, it's cool, though, because it's better than being on the phone. I couldn't look at that plant. I wouldn't get a chance to know that plant existed. I wouldn't get a chance to see those beautiful pictures in the background. Just a phone call. So I appreciate the Zoom. I really do.
Well, Daniel, thanks for taking some time to join us here and talk a little bit of Broncos, and good luck with the draft.
I appreciate you guys. You guys be safe, and we'll catch up down the road.